The national news has picked up on another self-defense case. This one particularly has to do with Ted Wafer. He was a homeowner in a suburb in the town of Dearborn Heights, which is near Detroit, Michigan. What happened was some young woman who was about 19 years old got drunk. She smashed up a car. She came to his house, which was about a half mile away from the accident scene, and tried to get into his house by rapping on the door. He was awakened. He took out a shotgun. He fired one shot into her head and killed her. And that's what the facts seem to indicate. Also, you have to take into account Michigan law. Particularly in Michigan law, you do not get to shoot potential burglars. You only get to use deadly force, as Mr. Wafer did, in the event that you honestly believe and reasonably believe that you or yourself are in danger of being killed or having great bodily harm done to them. This is a very tragic story. There have been a number of self-defense cases in the news, and I personally sort of list them on a scale, and there's no known units to the scale, but there's a certain point at where you go from being guilty to being not guilty. On this scale, I think I first start out with the situation of Raul Rodriguez, who made a video and tried to make a stand your ground case. He failed, and he's doing 40 years in prison. Then there's Michael Dunn. He shot a young black man in Florida. His case has not been concluded yet. However, given the facts of that case, I believe he's going to be found guilty of second-degree murder. I do not think the state would be able to prove first-degree murder because of the way the bullets were fired. It's not real clear that he was intentionally trying to kill anybody, but he was a very stupid individual, the way he conducted himself that evening, and the only explanation I could figure out to give for his behavior on that night was he was extremely drunk. Then there's Jerome Ursland. He was a pharmacist down in Oklahoma. What happened with regards to him was, two people came into his pharmacy and started to rob it. He got out his gun. He shot one in the head. That person fell on the floor. He then went out and chased the other one. He then came back and killed the one who was laying on the floor. He was found guilty, and he's doing life in Oklahoma prisons. Then there's Marissa Alexander. She has recently gotten the right to get a new trial. She went to her former husband's house, or maybe they were still married. He had been abusive to her. They were breaking up. There was a restraining order against him. She went into the house, fired a shot, and the jury found her to be guilty. However, the way the jury instructions were read, she was going to be granted a new trial. From my understanding of the facts of that case, she should take the deal and just probably get time served. Then there's Trevor Dudley. Mr. Dudley was a guy, he was in his 60s. He started yelling at some kids who were skateboarding. Some other guy who was 43 and playing basketball with his daughter took offense to that and got in an argument with Mr. Dudley. Mr. Dudley was walking away. The other guy grabbed him by the shoulder and turned him around, and Mr. Dudley turned around and shot him dead. The other guy was a lot younger and a lot better physical shape. And I don't like it, but I think Theodore Wafer will be found guilty of second-degree murder. I do not know that this is a lead pipe cinch case because the jury could sort of stretch the bounds of reasonable fear, and then he would be found not guilty. It's a very close case. And then finally, George Zimmerman. I think if you take into account all the facts of that case, it was properly decided, and he was sufficiently far from the line that I don't even know why the prosecutors brought it. But the reason that I would guess that Theodore Wafer will be found guilty is that it's not legal in the state of Michigan to shoot a burglar.